This is Sukruti Joshi and I am going to take the video lecture series today on the topic which is Introduction to Explosives. So, what is the actual meaning of explosives? Explosives are widely used in various chemical industries, as well as we all know that explosives are also widely used in mining. They actually gives us application in various fields. So, what are actually the explosives are? So, an explosive is a substance or a mixture which, when subjected to thermal or mechanical shock, gets rapidly oxidized exothermically and produce increased volume with a sudden release of potential energy. This particular substance is known as explosives. Okay? They generally give us a very high energy, specifically thermal energy. They will give a mechanical shock, which is very high intense mechanical shock in general, and they produced a very increased volume also. So this chemical compounds actually works exothermically. Okay? Now, the amount of power which is available from a given weight or volume of an explosive is called power to weight or power to volume ratio. Since the explosive reaction is exothermic in nature, so the products get heated to a high temperature and a high pressure is exerted on the surroundings. So when this extremely rapid chemical change takes place in a confined space, an extremely high pressure is developed which shatters the confining walls, or if developed at a relatively slower control rate, it may be used to propel the projectiles. So we can say that here we can use them to project the projectiles. Now, what is the meaning of this? What do you understand by projection of the projectiles? So you can release satellites, you can release missiles, you can release certain types of projectiles like bullet, like grenades. They all are released with the use of one or another type of explosives. We have different types of explosives. So depending upon that, you can release that particular projectile. Depending upon which kind of material you want to release, so you can use it. Okay, so that is how the explosives actually work, how their mechanism actually gives us a very high energy. Okay, now let's move ahead to the next one, which is known as uses of explosives. So what are the actual uses of explosives here? They can be used for constructive as well as for destructive purposes. One of the practical application of explosive reactions is to use the power which is produced in explosive reactions to do the work. So what we will do here is basically we will utilize the thermal energy which is produced during the chemical reaction of explosives. We can use the volume that is created by the explosive during its own reaction. We can move ahead and we can use that volume to power ratio or the energy to power ratio to utilize in our work, in our various applications. You can move ahead with any other application, and they can be constructive also, they can be destructive also, right? In certain civil engineering projects, you need to have a hole. There you can use the explosives. In certain buildings which are old buildings or which are aged buildings, in that one we can use the explosives so that we can get back them or we can remove them, right? Otherwise they will create a danger for the people who are living there or for the people who live near that surroundings. So it can actually be used in constructive way also as well as in destructive way also. If we talk about where they can be used, so in industry, explosives are employed for blasting ores of iron and other metals, to breaking down the coal, for mining of the salts, for quarrying the limestone which is used in road constructions. So as I said you, these are basically the constructive uses, or I can say that they are constructive applications. Okay, so what do you understand by this? So here we need to understand that in ore there is a mixture of metals, and when you do the blasting of ores of iron and other metals, you will get actually the form which can be utilized directly in industry. So you can get that by blasting of that ores with the use of explosives. Then we can use them to break down coal, right? So that it can be available in small pieces and that can be further utilized in various industrial applications. Then we will have here mining of the salts. We all know that we have, or we actually get, we can get certain types of minerals or salts under the earth's crust, right? So for that we require a proper amount of explosives so that that salt can actually be available to us in usable form, right? It should be available in usable form. Then we will have quarrying of the limestone, right? Limestone is a very important part in road building or in road constructions. So there we can actually use them. Then we will have it, the application in blasting of the holes in mountains. Basically, they are used for construction of the tunnels, in excavating the earth for dam purposes to manufacture different types of dams here, right? We can use them to manufacturing of the dams. Seismic prospecting to know that how it goes. Dislodging of the rocks, okay, we can use them, otherwise they'll be there on the road and they can create different types of accidents that we can actually observe in Himalayas nowadays, that landslides cause a lot of problems or a lot of accidents in general on one and another day. So to remove such kind of rocks we can use them. In performing a multitude sorts of useful work, we can use them in multi-purpose way, okay? So it's possible for us to use them mainly in constructive ways, right? Generally this development works like formation of tunnel or construction of tunnel, similar way construction of dams. Then we will have another one which is also known as the construction of certain types of buildings or certain types of nuclear reactors or the sensors we want to produce or we want to actually place them on that particular way. So we need to create a ground over the mountains, okay? And to create that mountain or to create that ground, we can use it. The other major use is in ammunition, not only for war but also for supporting purposes. All other explosive ammunitions such as aerial bombs, rockets, torpedoes, grenades, etc. So you can see that ammunition involves various things like certain types of bullets, certain types of projectiles, in projecting the projectiles to place the satellite at a particular position, that also requires a certain type of explosive and propellants, right? So we can use them in supporting purpose to protect our country also, not only for war purpose but just for protection purposes also. So you can use them in rockets, in aerial bombs, in torpedoes, as well as in grenades also. Now, our next one is characteristics of the explosives. So the first characteristic of explosive is its rate of decomposition should be fast to produce a large gaseous products exothermically, so that effective increase in volume due to heating effect is very large. Our second characteristic for our explosive is it should be cheap and stable under normal conditions. Stability of an explosive is determined by its decomposition point by DTA, which is known as differential thermal analysis. Our next property is, in general, explosive must not be volatile and hygroscopic and should be chemically stable. That means it should not react with the container material to form a shock sensitive salt. Okay, so this basically means that your explosive, or in general the explosive, must not be volatile. It should not be volatile at temperatures. In normal temperatures, it should not absorb the moisture, so it should not be hygroscopic in nature, and it should not be highly reactive with the container material. Okay. The next property will be is it must have at least one chemical bond that can be easily broken, right? It should contain at least one type of chemical bond which should be easily broken down. So in other words, its molecule should have low energy of dissociation. Usually, explosive molecules contain NN or N single bond O or NC1 or NCl and CCl bonds, so that it can be easily broken down and it can give us a tremendous amount of energy also. Thank you so much everyone.